By the 31st century, humanity had been exiled from the core regions of the galaxy, cast away by powerful alien empires who considered humans unpredictable, dangerous, and too volatile to coexist with advanced civilizations. The exiles were forced to survive in the farthest edges of space, on planets barely able to support life, in scattered colonies that struggled to maintain food, water, and energy supplies. The protagonist, a young human leader named Kale, walked through the crumbling city of one such colony, observing the makeshift homes, rusting starports, and people who had adapted to harsh conditions with an almost stubborn determination. Despite the desolation, humans had not lost their spirit. Kale noticed children playing with homemade gadgets powered by scavenged energy cells, elders teaching history and science to anyone willing to learn, and engineers repairing old starships using a mix of ingenuity and desperation. Life on the edge of the galaxy was unforgiving. Harsh storms of cosmic radiation swept across barren plains. Meteor showers frequently damaged settlements, and supplies from other colonies were rare and uncertain. Yet humans learned to thrive, developing technologies that were practical and resilient rather than elegant. The protagonist visited a massive hydroponic dome where food was grown using recycled water and nutrients salvaged from asteroid mines. Scientists experimented with genetically enhanced crops able to survive in low-gravity soil, while engineers converted derelict spaceships into mobile habitats capable of traveling between colonies. Every invention and repair told a story of survival against impossible odds. The aliens who had exiled humanity believed the people on the fringe would eventually die out, that their scattered colonies would collapse under pressure, and that humans would be forgotten in the vast emptiness of space. Kale walked among the colonists, listening to whispers of legends from Earth, the cradle of humanity. Stories of ancient cities, oceans, and skies filled with life and color kept hope alive. The protagonist understood that memory of the past was a weapon, a reason to endure, and a source of motivation. People shared tales of humanity's early space explorations, the founding of the colonies, and the mistakes that had led to the exile. Every story strengthened their identity and reminded them why survival mattered. Even in the toughest conditions, humans maintained their culture, their creativity, and their stubborn will to live. Despite poverty, hunger, and constant danger, humans began small efforts to organize, forming councils to manage resources, creating schools to teach science and engineering, and forming defense groups to protect against raiders and space predators. Kale often attended meetings where young engineers proposed ways to improve energy shields for habitats, or older scientists discussed reviving old starships. The collaboration between generations fostered a sense of unity and resilience that no alien empire had anticipated. It became clear that survival was not just about enduring the physical hardships, but about preserving intelligence, creativity, and hope. Humans were learning to turn exile into an advantage by becoming resourceful in ways the aliens could never imagine. Kale often gazed at the night sky from the colony's observation tower. Seeing distant stars in the faint glow of core systems, the protagonist knew that while humanity was exiled, it was far from defeated. The isolation forced humans to rely on themselves, to innovate, and to adapt, qualities that were underestimated by every alien empire. Kale felt a growing determination, a sense that humanity's exile was not a punishment but a crucible, preparing them for something far greater than mere survival. The edges of the galaxy were lonely and dangerous, but they were also a classroom for learning resilience, intelligence, and strategy. Humans developed ways to communicate across light years using advanced quantum networks, salvaged materials from ancient wrecks, and repurposed alien technology. Every colony became a workshop of innovation, every hardship a lesson in adaptation, and every small victory a sign that the human spirit was unbreakable. Kale walked through the colony at dusk, watching children test tiny flying drones, adults negotiating for rare supplies, and scientists monitoring ancient star maps. Each moment reinforced the truth that humans were learning to survive against impossible odds, and that their exile, while meant to destroy them, was shaping a new kind of strength. By the end of the 31st century, humans on the galactic frontier had transformed exile into opportunity, forging a civilization capable of surviving where others would fail. The protagonist recognized that while the alien empires believed humanity to be weak and scattered, the seeds of ingenuity, resilience, and unity were already taking root, laying the foundation for a future where humans would not just survive, but rise, and the first sparks of defiance and hope burned bright in the hearts of those who refused to be forgotten. In the 32nd century, humans began uncovering the secrets of their past, exploring ancient archives and technology left behind from Earth and early space expeditions. The protagonist, Kale, led a team of engineers and scientists deep into abandoned space stations and hidden vaults on distant asteroids. These forgotten places held the blueprints for starships, energy weapons, and artificial intelligence systems that had been dormant for centuries. As humans studied these relics, they discovered designs far more advanced than anything the alien empires had seen. Kale marveled at how humans had once built machines capable of traveling across galaxies and manipulating energy in ways that could alter entire planetary systems. The recovery of this technology was not easy. Many of the systems were damaged, corrupted, or incomplete. Engineers worked day and night repairing Starship hulls, rebooting AI cores, and reconstructing weapon systems using a mix of ancient knowledge and new innovations. Humans learned to combine old Earth designs with their own inventions, creating ships that were faster, stronger, and more adaptable than anything in alien fleets. The protagonist observed young engineers improvising solutions, turning broken circuits into powerful energy relays, and modifying engines to use rare materials mined from asteroids. Every repair and modification was a testament to human ingenuity, showing that even in exile, they could surpass the technology of their oppressors. While humans rebuilt their machines, scientists worked on reactivating AI systems that had lain dormant for centuries. These AIs held vast knowledge about navigation, energy systems, and tactics that humans could use to defend themselves or explore unknown regions. Kale watched as the AI units came online, their consciousness flickering before stabilizing, and marveled at how humans could communicate with entities created long before exile. The AIs were not just tools but partners, capable of learning, predicting, and advising, giving humans a strategic advantage that alien empires could not anticipate. Beyond technology, humans began organizing their scattered colonies into networks of cooperation. They shared knowledge, resources, and designs, creating a system where innovation spread rapidly across light years. Kale coordinated transmissions between colonies, ensuring that every settlement had access to the newly recovered technology. Even the smallest outpost could now produce energy shields, repair starships, and manufacture weapons, creating a sense of unity and purpose that had been missing for centuries. The alien empires still considered humans weak and disorganized, unaware that a quiet revolution was taking place on the fringes of their controlled galaxy. The process of recovery also ignited a cultural revival. Humans began studying not just machines, but history, philosophy, and art from Earth. Combining creativity with technical knowledge, engineers and scientists collaborated on projects that were both functional and inspiring. Kale often walked through workshops where designs were discussed with sketches, simulations, and holographic displays. Children learned from the blueprints as much as from teachers, developing skills in problem-solving, engineering, and strategy. The protagonist realized that knowledge itself was becoming humanity's greatest weapon, preparing them for a future confrontation no alien had foreseen. Humanity also experimented with weapons and defenses that pushed the limits of what they had learned. They converted ancient starships into stealth vessels, tested energy weapons that could disable entire fleets, and developed shields that could absorb massive amounts of cosmic energy. Kale supervised the testing of these innovations, ensuring that they were safe but also capable of delivering a surprise advantage. Every experiment revealed that humans were not simply catching up, they were evolving, surpassing the technology of the empires that had cast them out. Despite the risks, morale soared. Humans were no longer just surviving. They were preparing to reclaim their place in the galaxy. Kale watched fleets of rebuilt starships glide through orbital docks, AI units humming with intelligence, and scientists coordinating strategies with precision. The protagonist felt a deep pride as humans worked tirelessly, each discovery, repair, and invention strengthening the hidden power that the alien empires had underestimated. It was clear that exile had made humanity clever, adaptable, and dangerous in ways that no one could predict. By the end of the 32nd century, humans had transformed exile into a laboratory of survival and innovation. Their colonies were no longer isolated outposts, but interconnected centers of knowledge, engineering, and strategy. Kale reflected on the journey from scavenging ancient scraps to mastering technology that rivaled and even surpassed alien fleets. The seeds of a hidden power had been planted, and humanity, once considered weak and powerless, was quietly rising, preparing to show the galaxy that the last humans were not just survivors, but a force that no empire could ignore. By 3150 CE, humans had grown stronger, smarter, and far more organized than any alien empire suspected. Their colonies were connected through secret networks, starships rebuilt and upgraded, and AI systems fully operational. The protagonist, Kale, stood on the command bridge of a newly repaired fleet, watching as scouts reported movement in a nearby sector. A minor alien faction, curious about the distant human colonies, had sent a fleet to test defenses, expecting an easy victory. The humans had prepared quietly, analyzing alien tactics and preparing countermeasures that the attackers could not anticipate. When the alien scouts entered human-controlled space, they immediately noticed unusual patterns in sensor readings and unexpected energy signatures. The humans had disguised their fleets and created decoy stations, making the attackers uncertain of where the real defenses were located. Kale gave the order to deploy stealth ships equipped with advanced weaponry and AI-guided drones. The first wave struck silently, disabling alien engines and communications before the fleet even realized it was under attack. The aliens were shocked, struggling to understand how a supposedly weak, exiled species could strike with such precision and coordination. The battle unfolded across asteroid fields, abandoned stations, and small planets. Humans used their knowledge of the terrain and clever tactics to divide and confuse the alien forces. Kale coordinated with AI units that predicted enemy movements, allowing human pilots to avoid traps and counter ambushes effectively. The aliens, who relied on brute force and superior numbers, found themselves repeatedly outmaneuvered, their confidence replaced by confusion and fear. Even their most advanced ships were vulnerable to the unconventional strategies that humans had developed in exile. News of the battle spread quickly across human colonies. Carried through secure quantum networks, communities celebrated the victory, and morale soared. Citizens who had lived decades under the shadow of exile felt hope for the first time. They realized that humans were not weak, that their intelligence, resilience, and innovation had given them a real chance to fight back. Kale received messages from remote colonies, engineers reporting new innovations inspired by the battle, and scientists refining strategies based on the encounter. Every small victory strengthened the sense of unity and purpose among humans. The protagonist observed the aftermath of the battle, seeing damaged alien ships drifting across space, captured technology, and supplies that could be repurposed for human use. Even minor victories had enormous consequences, providing both material and psychological advantages. Kale understood that this first successful engagement was more than a battle. It was a statement to the galaxy, a demonstration that humanity, once considered weak and insignificant, could think, plan, and execute actions that confounded even the most advanced alien fleets. Humans also began analyzing the alien tactics, collecting data on ship formations, weapon types, and command structures. Kale worked with AI strategists to create simulations for future encounters, ensuring that no empire could underestimate human ingenuity again. The protagonist encouraged pilots and engineers to innovate further, combining recovered ancient technology with new designs to create unexpected weapons, stealth systems, and communication networks. Every innovation added to the unpredictability that had become humanity's greatest weapon. Amid the chaos and excitement, Kale reflected on how far humanity had come. From scattered exiles struggling to survive in harsh colonies to a coordinated, intelligent, and technologically advanced force. The first strike was proof that humans had learned to turn exile into strength, mastering strategies that relied on intelligence, preparation, and clever improvisation rather than sheer numbers. The aliens had thought they were dealing with a weak and desperate species, but they were now confronted with opponents capable of tactical brilliance and bold action. The victory also brought a new sense of responsibility. Humans knew that the galaxy would not forget this display of power. Kale focused on preparing colonies for the next stages of conflict, training new pilots, upgrading starships, and coordinating alliances with other marginalized species who might support human efforts. The protagonist understood that this first strike was only the beginning, a spark that could ignite a wider movement across the galaxy, showing that humanity was rising from exile to reclaim its place among the stars. By the end of the engagement, the alien fleet had retreated in disarray, their perception of humans shattered. Kale surveyed the fleet and the colonies, sensing that the galaxy was about to change. The battle had proved that humans were no longer the exiles the empires had dismissed, and that the seeds of a cosmic war no one had anticipated were beginning to take root. Every human involved felt the thrill of victory, the weight of history, and the promise of a future where they could rise, unite, and reshape the galaxy according to their own destiny. During the early 33rd century, humans began reaching beyond their colonies, seeking allies among alien species who had long suffered under the rule of the great empires. The protagonist, Kale, led delegations to distant worlds, negotiating secretly with species that had been ignored or oppressed for centuries. These aliens had intelligence, skill, and technology of their own, but had been marginalized or enslaved. Many were cautious at first, unsure if humans were trustworthy after so many centuries of exile. Kale and his team demonstrated humanity's resilience, intelligence, and vision, showing that cooperation could benefit all who opposed the dominant empires. Communication and diplomacy were delicate, requiring patience, persuasion, and careful observation of cultural norms. Humans learned to adapt their approach to each species, respecting traditions while sharing knowledge and strategies. Kale attended long negotiations where translators, holographic projections, and AI mediators facilitated dialogue. In these meetings, humans proved that they were more than survivors. They were innovators, capable of thinking strategically on both political and military fronts. The protagonist often reflected on how exile had prepared humanity for this moment, forcing them to develop skills in improvisation, negotiation, and intelligence that the empires never expected. As alliances began to form, humans shared the knowledge and technology they had recovered, helping their new allies repair old ships, strengthen defenses, and establish communication networks. Humans taught these species how to combine their own technologies with recovered human systems to create hybrid fleets capable of surprising enemy forces. Kale oversaw demonstrations of advanced starships, AI systems, and energy weapons, showing allies the potential of working together. Slowly, a secret coalition began to take shape, composed of humans and alien species united by the desire to resist oppression. Trust grew through small joint operations. Humans and their allies carried out reconnaissance missions, rescued oppressed populations, and coordinated minor strikes against lightly defended targets. These actions were carefully planned to avoid alerting the dominant empires. But each success reinforced the bond between humans and the allied species. Kale coordinated these missions from a hidden command station, analyzing intelligence with AI partners and advising field teams. The protagonist realized that the key to success was patience and subtlety, building a network that could strike decisively when the time was right. The cultural exchange between humans and their allies also strengthened relationships. Humans shared stories of Earth, history, and the struggles of their colonies, while alien species introduced new strategies, philosophies, and technologies. This exchange allowed humans to think in new ways, blending creativity, logic, and experience into solutions that the empires could not anticipate. Kale encouraged collaboration, emphasizing that the survival of all species depended on learning from each other. Not only was humanity growing stronger, but the coalition as a whole became more capable, diverse, and unpredictable. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists, adapting ships and weapons to suit multiple species' needs. Pilots trained together, learning each other's methods and tactics, while AI systems integrated data from all participants, creating a shared intelligence network capable of predicting enemy movements and planning complex operations. Kale supervised these integrations, ensuring that each species retained autonomy while contributing to the collective strength of the coalition. The result was a force more advanced and versatile than any single empire could imagine. Despite secrecy, humans faced challenges. Not all species trusted each other fully, and communication errors sometimes caused tension. Kale mediated disputes, reminding all involved that unity was the only path to survival. He also anticipated that when the empires discovered these alliances, they would respond aggressively, so preparation and discretion were critical. The protagonist knew that forming the coalition was a dangerous but necessary step, and that the success of these alliances could determine the fate of humanity and their new friends. By the middle of the 33rd century, the human-led coalition had grown significantly, spanning multiple star systems. The allied species had become familiar with human ingenuity and adaptability, and humans had learned to respect the unique strengths of their allies. Together, they developed coordinated plans for future operations, combining stealth, strategy, and surprise. Kale and his team worked tirelessly to ensure that every ally was equipped, trained, and ready for the challenges ahead. The protagonist understood that this coalition was the first real step toward challenging the dominance of the empires, and that their combined strength could alter the balance of power in the galaxy. Every meeting, every technological upgrade, and every successful joint operation reinforced the sense that humans were no longer isolated exiles, but leaders of a growing movement capable of resistance. Kale felt a deep satisfaction watching humans and aliens work together, learning from each other and preparing to act when the time came. The alliances formed in this century would become the foundation for the wars to come, and humanity's ability to unite with others proved that the last humans were not just survivors, but architects of a future where they could rise and reclaim their place among the stars. By 3250 CE, humans had grown far beyond mere survival, mastering technology, strategy, and intelligence in ways that alien empires could not anticipate. The protagonist, Kale, oversaw the deployment of advanced AI reconnaissance systems across enemy territories. These AIs were capable of monitoring fleets, scanning planetary defenses, and analyzing communication networks faster than any human or alien could. Humans had developed quantum encryption methods to send information instantly between colonies and allied species, allowing every settlement to share intelligence in real time. This network of knowledge became humanity's secret weapon, a force multiplier that amplified every decision, plan, and strike. The AIs could predict enemy movements, calculate optimal strategies, and suggest tactics that took advantage of the smallest weaknesses in alien fleets. Kale worked closely with AI units, inputting historical data, recovered blueprints, and intelligence from allied species to create simulations of potential battles. The protagonist observed as human strategists tested thousands of scenarios, refining approaches that combined stealth, speed, and unpredictability. Every simulation revealed vulnerabilities in alien command structures, weak points in fleet formations, and exploitable flaws in planetary defenses. Knowledge that could turn a single starship into a decisive advantage. Humans also used their reconnaissance to understand the political dynamics of the empires, uncovering rivalries, disagreements, and unrest within alien hierarchies. Kale realized that intelligence was not just about technology or military strength, but about understanding the mind of the enemy. By predicting which factions were vulnerable to persuasion or sabotage, humans could manipulate situations without revealing their full strength. The protagonist coordinated teams to intercept and decode alien communications, capturing critical information about fleet movements, supply lines, and defensive protocols. The data gathered allowed humans to plan strikes that were precise, strategic, and devastatingly effective. The AI systems also assisted in training humans and allied species, creating virtual simulations where pilots, engineers, and commanders could practice complex maneuvers in environments that mimicked real battle conditions. Kale supervised the development of these programs, ensuring that every participant learned to react to unexpected scenarios. The simulations combined recovered human technology with alien tactics, producing strategies that no empire had prepared for. By the end of the training cycles, pilots could anticipate enemy actions, engineers could repair or modify equipment mid-battle, and commanders could coordinate multi-species fleets with perfect synchronization. intelligence operations extended beyond immediate military concerns. Humans studied planets for hidden resources, discovered abandoned facilities that could be reactivated, and identified areas where alien defenses were weakest. Kale often reviewed reports detailing potential supply routes, energy sources, and strategic locations. Each discovery was carefully logged, analyzed, and integrated into the broader strategy. Humans learned to think like their enemies, predicting how alien commanders might respond to various scenarios, and then creating contingencies to counter every possible move. This foresight became a hallmark of human strategy, combining patience, cunning, and adaptability. Even during this period of quiet preparation, humans faced constant risks. Alien patrols, rogue factions, and space hazards threatened reconnaissance missions. But humans used stealth technology, AI guidance, and improvised tactics to avoid detection. Kale led several dangerous missions personally, demonstrating the courage and determination that inspired both human and allied forces. Each success strengthened confidence, proving that intelligence and preparation could overcome raw power. The protagonist emphasized to his teams that information was as important as firepower, and that the right knowledge in the right hands could turn the tide of any battle. By 3250 CE, humans had created a network that extended across multiple galaxies, combining AI surveillance, quantum communication, and allied intelligence into a cohesive system. Kale and his team could monitor hundreds of targets simultaneously, predicting enemy movements and preparing responses before the aliens even realized a threat existed. This cosmic intelligence network became the foundation of humanity's rising power, turning scattered exiles into a formidable force. The protagonist watched as humans and allies alike refined their strategies, integrated new technologies, and learned to anticipate the unpredictable, transforming knowledge into an unstoppable advantage. Through these operations, humans discovered that preparation, intelligence, and foresight could level the playing field against far superior forces. Kale realized that the Empire's arrogance and reliance on brute force were their greatest weaknesses. By exploiting gaps in communication, underestimating human ingenuity, and failing to predict coordinated actions between humans and allies, the Empires had left themselves vulnerable. The protagonist felt a growing sense of purpose. Knowing that the intelligence gathered in this era would enable humanity to strike decisively, reshape the galaxy, and prove that the exiled species was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. By the end of this period, humans had transformed intelligence gathering into a weapon, integrating AI, quantum networks, simulations, and alliances into a system that allowed them to see and predict enemy actions with unmatched precision. Kale reflected on the progress made since exile, from scattered colonies to a galaxy-spanning intelligence network. Every insight, every intercepted message, and every simulated strategy strengthened humanity's position, setting the stage for the first major strikes that would shock the alien empires, and proving that the last humans were not just survivors, but thinkers, strategists, and the beginning of a force no one could foresee. In 32275 CE, humans were ready to act on the intelligence and strategies they had spent decades preparing. The protagonist, Kale, stood on the command deck of the flagship, observing the deployment of fleets that combined human starships with allied alien vessels. The ships glided silently through the void, cloaked and shielded, waiting for the precise moment to strike. The target was a cluster of heavily defended alien outposts. Strategically important, but assumed secure by the empires, humans and their allies had spent months mapping every patrol route, communication channel, and weak point, ensuring that the attack would be swift, coordinated, and overwhelming. When the fleets entered enemy territory, the aliens were completely unprepared. Their sensors detected some movement, but human stealth technology and AI-guided decoys created confusion. Multiple fleets appeared to converge from different directions, forcing alien commanders to split their attention and divert resources. Kale issued orders to deploy small strike teams that disabled communications and sabotaged critical systems. The alien forces, expecting an easy engagement against scattered exiles, were caught off guard, struggling to respond to attacks that were fast, precise, and unpredictable. The battle unfolded across orbital stations, asteroid belts, and heavily fortified planets, humans and their allies used every advantage, from cloaked ships appearing behind enemy lines to AI-guided drones disabling power grids. The protagonist watched as coordinated attacks disrupted alien formations, forcing their fleets into chaos. Even superior alien vessels were unable to anticipate the unconventional tactics, and many were destroyed or captured. The first wave of attacks demonstrated the effectiveness of years of preparation, turning what could have been a dangerous gamble into a decisive engagement. On the ground, Allied forces carried out synchronized operations, disabling orbital defenses, securing critical infrastructure, and rescuing populations oppressed by alien rule. Kale coordinated these maneuvers with real-time intelligence from AI systems, ensuring that no team acted without support. Every action reinforced the strategic plan, creating confusion among enemy commanders and amplifying the psychological impact of the assault. The aliens, who had assumed humans were disorganized and weak, were forced to confront the reality that exiled humans had become a highly capable and dangerous opponent. Throughout the battle, human pilots demonstrated skill and courage, navigating narrow asteroid fields, evading energy weapons, and executing maneuvers that the alien fleets could not predict. Kale observed as young pilots improvised in real time, adapting to unexpected enemy responses while maintaining overall coordination. AI units provided guidance and tactical suggestions, predicting enemy movements and optimizing attacks. The combination of human creativity and machine precision created an advantage that no empire had anticipated, showing that intelligence, flexibility, and preparation could defeat brute force. Meanwhile, engineers worked tirelessly to repair damaged ships mid-battle, creating mobile repair units and deploying energy relays that sustained fleet operations under fire. Kale recognized that every innovation, every improvised solution, and every small victory contributed to the larger success. The protagonist understood that the battle was as much a test of human adaptability as it was of military strength. The aliens could match firepower, but they could not match the ability of humans to think creatively and respond quickly to changing circumstances. The battle lasted for days, with waves of strikes, counterattacks, and strategic maneuvers. Humans and their allies gradually gained control over the territory, capturing key outposts, disabling supply lines, and forcing alien fleets to retreat. Kale coordinated final assaults on critical targets, ensuring that the enemy could not regroup. The victory was not just physical but symbolic, demonstrating that humanity, long thought weak and scattered, could operate at a level rivaling even the most powerful empires. News of the victory spread across human colonies and allied worlds, boosting morale and inspiring confidence in the coalition. Populations who had lived under oppression began to see hope, and humans themselves recognized the magnitude of what they had accomplished. Kale reflected on the courage, ingenuity, and preparation that had made this possible, understanding that the battle was a turning point, a moment when humanity revealed its true potential and capacity to challenge empires. By the end of the engagement, alien forces were in disarray, struggling to comprehend how an exiled species had organized, trained, and executed such complex operations. Kale surveyed the aftermath, watching human and allied fleets regroup, repair, and prepare for the next stage. The protagonist knew that the battle had demonstrated the value of preparation, intelligence, and collaboration, and that humanity's rise was no longer a secret. The first major coordinated strikes had proven that the exiles were now a formidable force, capable of shaping the course of the galaxy and altering the balance of power in ways no one had foreseen. The events of 3275 CE marked a new era, one where humans and their allies had turned knowledge, strategy, and courage into a weapon, showing that exile had not weakened them, but had forged a generation capable of facing any empire. Kale felt the weight of history and the thrill of possibility, knowing that this was only the beginning, and that the last humans were now a power no one could ignore, ready to challenge the alien empires on a scale that would reshape the galaxy. By the 34th century, humanity's influence had grown across multiple star systems, and the coalition of humans and allied species had become a powerful force. The protagonist, Kale, stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching fleets of diverse ships move in perfect coordination. The exiled humans who had once struggled to survive on barren colonies were now leading a united front, striking fear into empires that had never expected such unity. The oppressed species that had joined the coalition contributed unique technologies, tactics, and knowledge, creating a force that was both unpredictable and formidable. The coalition had learned from past battles, perfecting strategies that combined stealth, precision, and intelligence. Kale coordinated attacks against strategic enemy hubs, focusing on command centers, supply lines, and defensive installations. Each operation was carefully planned using data collected over centuries. AIs provided real-time predictions and simulations, allowing humans and allies to act with confidence and efficiency. The aliens, who relied on raw power and overwhelming numbers, were repeatedly outmaneuvered, unable to respond effectively to the coordinated strikes. Ground and orbital operations were synchronized to maximize impact. Human engineers and alien technicians worked together to repair fleets mid-battle, upgrade weapons, and create new technologies. Pilots trained across species, learning to operate unfamiliar ships and adapt to diverse tactics. Kale supervised these efforts, ensuring that collaboration and trust remained strong. Every member of the coalition played a vital role, from strategists calculating trajectories to engineers reinforcing hulls under fire. The sense of purpose and unity strengthened morale, transforming the coalition into a force capable of long-term campaigns. As victories accumulated, more alien species openly joined the coalition, swelling human ranks and further weakening the Empire's control. Populations that had lived under oppression began to see hope, joining in support and providing resources, intelligence, and manpower. Kale recognized that the moral and psychological impact of these alliances was as important as military strength. The coalition's successes inspired revolts, sabotages, and uprisings in territories controlled by the empires, creating chaos that the alien leaders struggled to contain. The protagonist led decisive campaigns to capture key command hubs and critical planets, striking at the heart of imperial power. Human and allied ships moved through defended systems with precision, disabling communications and isolating enemy fleets. Every operation demonstrated the coalition's ability to think creatively and act with speed. Outposts that had once seemed impenetrable fell, and alien commanders began to realize that their arrogance and reliance on brute force had left them vulnerable. Technology played a crucial role. Humans and allies combined ancient human designs with alien innovations, creating hybrid starships, energy weapons, and shield systems capable of countering Imperial firepower. AI units coordinated attacks, predicted enemy responses, and optimized fleet maneuvers. Kale ensured that these technologies were integrated seamlessly, allowing the coalition to respond dynamically to unexpected challenges. Every success further reinforced the belief that humanity's ingenuity and adaptability were unmatched. The battles were not only physical, but psychological. The empires were shocked by the precision, unpredictability, and resilience of the coalition. Rumors of human-led victories spread quickly, undermining morale and causing doubt among enemy ranks. Kale understood that perception was a weapon, and that showing strength, unity, and intelligence could destabilize even the most rigid command structures. The humans, once exiles, had become a symbol of defiance, demonstrating that no empire could underestimate them. Amidst the campaigns, Kale worked closely with allied leaders, building trust, resolving conflicts, and fostering cooperation. Cultural exchange strengthened bonds. Humans learned new strategies, philosophies, and technologies from their allies, while sharing knowledge of human engineering, history, and tactics. This mutual learning created a coalition that was adaptable, resilient, and innovative, capable of responding to challenges in ways the empires could not predict. By the end of these campaigns, the coalition had turned the tide of galactic power, capturing critical systems, weakening enemy control, and inspiring oppressed populations across multiple star systems. Kale surveyed the fleets and planets under coalition control, seeing evidence of unity, strength, and ingenuity. The protagonist realized that the rise of humanity and their allies was not just a military achievement, but the beginning of a new era in which the exiled species would no longer be underestimated. The events of the 34th century marked a decisive turning point, showing that humans were capable of leadership, strategy, and vision on a galactic scale. Kale reflected on the journey from scattered colonies to a coalition capable of challenging empires. The successes of this era proved that humanity's exile had forged resilience, intelligence, and unity, transforming a once-forgotten species into a force that could shape the galaxy's future. The last humans were no longer merely survivors. They were leaders, innovators, and the architects of a new cosmic order. In 3340 CE, the alien empires realized that humanity and their allied coalition were no longer a distant threat, but a powerful force capable of challenging their dominance. The protagonist, Kale, stood on the command deck of the flagship, observing the enemy's movements as they launched a massive counterattack. The empires had marshaled fleets far larger than anything the coalition had faced before, expecting to crush the humans and their allies once and for all. But Kale and the coalition were ready. Their preparation, intelligence, and strategy over centuries had built a force that could anticipate enemy moves and respond with precision and creativity. The battle began with waves of alien ships advancing toward key coalition positions, but humans and their allies were already in position. Cloaked fleets emerged from hidden paths. AI-guided drones disabled communication arrays, and energy disruptors temporarily blinded the enemy. The aliens were shocked, struggling to coordinate their attacks against opponents who seemed to be everywhere at once. Kale issued orders calmly, coordinating multiple fleets, strike teams, and allied units with flawless timing. The combination of human ingenuity and allied support created confusion and panic in the Imperial ranks. As the battle escalated, humans executed daring maneuvers that the alien empires could not predict. Starships split into small tactical units, striking at vulnerable points before regrouping for the next assault. Orbital stations were captured one by one, and planetary defenses were disabled using a combination of stealth, precision strikes, and advanced technology. The protagonist watched as young pilots demonstrated remarkable skill, improvising when plans changed mid-battle. Their courage and creativity turned the tide in situations where sheer force had failed. Allied species played a crucial role, deploying unique weapons and abilities that complemented human strategies. Kale coordinated joint operations, ensuring that every strike, defense, and maneuver was integrated seamlessly. Engineers repaired damaged ships in orbit, while scientists recalibrated energy weapons in real time. The coalition's ability to adapt on the fly overwhelmed the alien empires, who had relied on predictable tactics and overwhelming numbers. Every success strengthened morale and confidence, demonstrating that humanity and their allies could stand against even the most powerful fleets. The counterattack by the alien empires intensified, with massive warships targeting key coalition command hubs. But Kale's planning ensured that each hub had redundancies, hidden defenses, and rapid response units. Energy shields absorbed devastating blasts, and AI systems rerouted power to maintain critical operations. The aliens were frustrated, unable to anticipate the coalition's adaptability. Their fleets suffered heavy losses, and critical supply lines were cut off. The protagonist realized that this was the moment humanity had been preparing for over centuries, the culmination of exile, innovation, and strategic intelligence. Amid the chaos, humans and allies coordinated rescues and evacuations, saving populations previously under Imperial control. Kale oversaw the liberation of planets where oppressed species had lived in fear. The coalition's victories were not only military, but symbolic, demonstrating that no empire, no matter how vast, could suppress the will of those united by purpose and determination. The protagonist understood that every planet freed, every fleet captured, and every victory achieved sent a message across the galaxy that humanity was rising, and the exiled species could no longer be ignored. By the middle of the campaign, the alien empire's command structures were in disarray. Conflicting orders, miscommunication, and fear spread among their forces. Kale exploited these weaknesses, launching coordinated strikes against key leaders and strategic installations. The coalition's superior intelligence, planning, and adaptability allowed them to neutralize threats before they could organize effective counterattacks. Every victory brought more species into the coalition, swelling human ranks and consolidating control over critical regions. The protagonist witnessed the transformation of scattered exiles into a dominant galactic power. As the battle drew to its climax, the remaining Imperial forces attempted a desperate final assault, but humans and their allies anticipated every move. Using AI predictions, strategic simulations, and real-time intelligence, the coalition countered each attack with precision. Starships disabled warships, orbital defenses neutralized incoming strikes, and coordinated strikes forced enemy commanders to surrender or retreat. Kale felt the culmination of centuries of preparation, training, and perseverance. Humanity had proven that intelligence, courage, and unity could overcome raw power, and the empires could no longer dominate through fear alone. After the final skirmishes, the galaxy was quiet. The remnants of the alien fleet scattered or captured. Kale surveyed the liberated systems, seeing the results of strategy, ingenuity, and collaboration. Planets were free, colonies were secure, and the coalition had established a network of influence that no empire could dismantle. The protagonist reflected on the journey from scattered exiles on barren planets to leaders of a coalition capable of reshaping the galaxy. Every sacrifice, innovation, and daring action had led to this moment. The victory of 3340 CE marked the rise of the last humans, once exiled, now a central force in galactic affairs. Kale realized that humanity's journey had transformed them from survivors into architects of a new cosmic order. Their unity with allied species, mastery of technology, and strategic brilliance had changed the balance of power forever. The war no one saw coming had ended, and the last humans were ready to define the future of the galaxy, not as exiles, but as leaders, innovators, and guardians of freedom across the stars.